When the news broke out that SmackDown would be moving to Fox, we all had a glimmer of hope that the show was going to be just as good as it was in the glory days of 2016. Unfortunately, it didn't take long for us to realize that not even a billion-dollar deal with a huge broadcasting company can cause WWE to produce an entertaining show. From the very first episode of SmackDown on Fox, WWE failed to meet our expectations by making Kofi Kingston look like a complete joke and randomly introducing Cain Velasquez. Ever since then, SmackDown has spiraled down a self-destructive path, and honestly, I don't see it recovering for a very long time. I've always viewed SmackDown as the superior brand, but recently it seems like WWE has purposely made the show so bad that it makes Raw look somewhat decent. Or maybe it's the fact that Vince McMahon is spending more time on SmackDown, whereas before he did not. With this video, I'm going to list the reasons why I believe that SmackDown on Fox has been nothing but a letdown.
It's boss time!
There are plenty of guys who can perfectly portray both a face and heel, such as The Rock or Daniel Bryan, but let's face it, The Miz is just not one of those guys. As a heel, he made the IC Championship feel prestigious, had an incredible feud with Dolph Ziggler, and gave us some of the most compelling storylines of 2016 and 2017. Besides losing to Shane McMahon 3 times in a row and getting destroyed by Bray Wyatt, The Miz hasn't really done anything important since becoming a babyface. To put it plainly, The Miz needs to go back to acting like an arrogant Hollywood star because that's clearly where he shines the brightest. It is no secret that The Miz is at best mediocre when it comes to his in-ring work, which is why he has to go back to relying on his mic skills as a heel if he wants to keep fans invested in his character. Thankfully, WWE might be taking a step in the right direction by pairing him up with John Morrison because it's only a matter of time before he goes full-on heel.
It's boss time!
I think it's fair to say that Baron Corbin is on the list of wrestlers who make me feel like grabbing the remote and switching the channel immediately each time I see him on TV. Look, I'm not going to pretend like Corbin doesn't have the potential to be great, but the material he's been given has just been cringe-worthy. Not only was he placed in a weird faction with Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode, but he's also forced to deliver lines that feel extremely fabricated. Whenever I try to like Corbin, WWE goes out of their way to make him look like an embarrassment by having a segment where he pours dog food all over Roman Reigns. Seriously, how childish do you have to be to think that this is a brilliant idea? On top of all this, Corbin is usually involved in 20-minute segments because WWE has no idea how to creatively fill up the 2-hour runtime. No matter how good Corbin is at getting heat, I just don't think he should have a big presence on SmackDown. The show would benefit from cutting down the amount of screen time Baron Corbin gets so they could focus on talent that is barely utilized.
It's boss time!
Remember back in the late 1990s when wrestlers like The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Triple H would do anything to get their hands on the Intercontinental Championship? It feels strange thinking about how there was a time when the IC title was just as important as the WWE Championship. As of right now, it feels irrelevant, and that's mostly because WWE doesn't understand the importance of building up their mid-card wrestlers. Ember Moon said it best when she recently admitted that WWE has lost the ability to tell stories with their lower card. Rather than telling stories with Mustafa Ali or Drew Gulak to make them feel like legitimate threats to the division, SmackDown has only used them for one-off matches that mean absolutely nothing. Shinsuke can easily have classics with these guys, but instead, he just gets pinned by Braun Strowman and only wins matches if there's some sort of interference. He is arguably one of the most talented wrestlers on the SmackDown roster, yet he hasn't done anything significant with that title. Not to mention that WWE got rid of the modernized version of the Classic Championship, which just shows their obsession with trying to fix things that are not broken.
It's boss time!
The most exciting part about SmackDown moving to Fox was the fact that we were led to believe that it would have a sports-oriented feel, but they failed to keep their promise. Let's be honest, there is nothing about SmackDown that feels like a sport. Dressing up a guy in a big dog costume and making Braun Strowman dance with the New Day isn't exactly what I have in mind when I hear the words sports-oriented. Maybe my expectations were a little too high, but I was hoping that SmackDown would highlight the win-loss records and hype up matches weeks in advance so it could truly feel like a sport. Also, I thought that they would take a risk by targeting a slightly more mature audience and having hard-hitting matches that are similar to the ones we see on NXT. Instead, WWE tricked us into thinking that SmackDown felt like an actual sport by including guys like Brock Lesnar, Cain Velasquez, and Tyson Fury. We all know the reason why they were featured on the show is because Vince McMahon would rather please those fans who tune in once in a while than those who watch every single week.
It's boss time!
This one is pretty much a no-brainer considering that it's a problem WWE has had for many years now and they still refuse to fix it. Most people would probably argue that the feud between Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin has gotten to the point where it's unwatchable, especially since they've already had so many matches together. As for the women's division, I think that Lacey Evans simply isn't ready to carry a storyline with Bayley and would have been better off if she spent a little bit more time in NXT. Also, it's kind of hard to buy her new face persona since WWE really hasn't offered us an explanation as to why she suddenly decided to have a change of heart. Then you have the mid-card, which I won't even dive into much detail because their storylines are pretty much non-existent. For the most part, they're just thrown together in random matches because WWE either doesn't know what to do with them or they just want to fill up TV time. On the bright side, it seems like WWE is planning to have a really good storyline between the New Day and the Dirt Sheet, so that's something I'm looking forward to. If I had to choose the best storyline on SmackDown, it would definitely be the feud between Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt, but I'm not too sure if that's enough to keep me watching a 2-hour show each week. In a perfect world, every match on SmackDown would have the sense of urgency and lead to a long-term storyline, but of course, that's just wishful thinking. Overall, SmackDown seriously has to improve their storylines because some of them lack character motives, while others are simply just boring to watch. Though taking the time to actually develop characters such as Mustafa Ali and Chad Gable won't solve all their storyline problems, it would be a good start.
It's boss time!
Besides Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns, I can't imagine anyone else who can feud with Bray Wyatt for the Universal Championship. Dolph Ziggler, Bobby Roode, Elias, and Baron Corbin would just get completely buried if they found themselves in a ring with The Fiend. Then you have guys like Cesaro who could potentially pose a threat to the Universal Championship, while we all know that he'll never get a push that he rightfully deserves. Even the women's division is nowhere nearly as strong as it should be. You know something's wrong when WWE literally has no other choice but to give Dana Brooke more screen time and make Lacey Evans the face of the SmackDown women's division. Bayley and Sasha are the only ones that I'm truly invested in, which just goes to show that WWE still struggles to build women stars outside of the 4 horsewomen. In my fantasy booking video of the 2019 draft, I made sure that the SmackDown roster was stacked with top stars such as Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, and Becky Lynch. The fact that all those wrestlers I just listed are now on Raw just proves that Vince McMahon never had the guts to make SmackDown replace Raw as the #1 brand for the company. In his eyes, SmackDown will always be the B show while Raw will always be the A show. Fox is literally the 4th most watched TV network, so there's no reason as to why Vince shouldn't make it feel like the most important show. WWE missed the opportunity to go all out with SmackDown, and that might just go down as one of the biggest mistakes they ever made. And that is it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Pllana, and I'll see you all on the next video.
And I got this soul.